And that's a wrap. I have covered every single main series game and some extras depending on who you ask for the first 3 full eras of Kirby. First the classics, then the midlife crisis, or the bridge era for a less goofy name, and now the Return to Dreamland era is done. Going from every game, starting with Dreamland and ending with Star Allies, has been quite the experience, and I've learned a lot by covering them. I can't cover every detail of why all of these games could be considered the best or worst in the series, but based on the feedback I've gotten, I seem to be doing a good job universally. So let's take the good job that I've been doing and cause some controversy. I will come right out of the gate and say it. Of the 3 eras we've covered so far, this one is my favorite. It has some things about it that I don't like, which we will get into, but the rate that these games came out was insane. Starting with Return to Dreamland, only 2013 was missed, and every other year was filled with either a major new release, a cool new spin-off, or an interesting expansion of a sub-game from the main 3DS titles. Compare this to the 2000s, which didn't have very much, or the classic era where the quantity was there, but the majority of the spin-offs felt really throwaway. I still maintain that Battle Royale is one of the most fun multiplayer games in the series and deserves so much better, but other games of the era, like the Kirby Clash and Fighters games, were other notable multiplayer experiences. Putting aside games that I didn't cover for the year, while I don't want to call Rainbow Curse a hidden gem, it is a really fun game with a phenomenal presentation that got shafted by unfortunately being on the Wii U. And the multiplayer there is a ton of fun too. While Extra Epic Yarn wasn't multiplayer and may not have been any kind of success, as a technical achievement, fitting a Wii game on the 3DS and it not being a total mess, if nothing else, is commendable. All that said, for better or for worse, when anyone looks back at this time period of Kirby, they're going to think of 4, maybe 3, games, those being Return to Dreamland, Triple Deluxe, Planet Robobot, and Star Allies. They defined the franchise for an entire decade, and while Star Allies came out towards the end and didn't have the best reception, the sales numbers for that game were when it became clear that the road that Return and Triple Deluxe had paved made this series one of Nintendo's biggest hits. Kirby had finally, genuinely, and no help needed from Smash Brothers, made it to the mainstream. Return to Dreamland oftentimes gets the credit here, and while the sales numbers for a 2011 Wii game for a franchise people didn't care much for, outside of a small handful of games and Smash, were great, the lightning in a bottle that was Triple Deluxe is really what helped Kirby catch on. Planet Robobot got a ton of love, but not the sales numbers, and Star Allies was the opposite. We didn't get another genuine Triple Deluxe until Forgotten Land, which sounds really funny out of context. So why could this be considered a bad thing? The franchise's sales are doing great, HAL itself has grown exponentially, and even older titles that didn't get much attention, like Superstar Ultra, have re-entered into the public conscious. The problem is that in becoming more mainstream, more games were coming out at a time. In particular, the spin-off games being expansions of Triple Deluxe and Planet Robobot sub-games, Triple Deluxe feeling very similar to Return, Planet Robobot literally having the game engine for a Triple Deluxe 2, not to mention that these problems carried over to the Switch. This era of Kirby had a big problem with games feeling samey. Now, nobody's accusing, say, Blowout Blast and Triple Deluxe of being the same game. That said, they all share a nearly identical feel and control scheme with a nearly identical presentation. Sure, they play different, but unlike any of the Kirby games before, it could really feel like you were playing the same game, or at the very least, some kind of update. Not a brand new game like the majority of Kirby games before it. I mentioned this in the Star Allies video, but Dreamland 1 and 2, they look similar in some ways, yes, but they're totally different and feel nothing alike. Nightmare and Amazing Mirror, same engine, but Amazing Mirror is an open world game, Nightmare and Dreamland is a platformer, they play completely differently. And while Nightmare and Superstar Ultra were remakes, they not only added a lot of new content, but looked, controlled, felt, and sounded nothing like the originals. Epic Yarn and Extra Epic are basically the same game, except Extra Epic is almost universally seen as worse. The common counter-argument, and one that I actually agree with, is that all of these games play super differently. Just looking at the spin-offs, something that Kirby has always shamelessly copied and pasted assets for, Fighters and Clash and Blowout Blast and Rainbow Curse and Battle Royale, they play nothing alike. They all have really interesting spins on what Kirby is, and were a nice, fun little time away from the main series games. I take most of those over, say, Block Ball or Pinball Land, or heck, even Squeak Squad. The actual core Kirby games, in terms of visual presentation, always felt the most distinct to me, ignoring Rainbow Curse for obvious reasons. Ironic considering what everyone else thinks, but I don't know, I have no idea how you can look at Return and Star Allies and think they look identical. Frankly, the games don't even feel all that similar to me in terms of physics and such. It's like comparing Superstar to Ultra. There's more nuance here than, say, Nightmare to Squeak Squad or the Dreamland trilogy. Even Return to TDX and Robobot to Star Allies feel different to me, although not as much. Really, the only major offender here is Triple Deluxe 2 Robobot, ironically, because Robobot is considered by many to be the best game in the series. For gameplay, that's a bit of a different story. I will argue until the day that I die that Triple Deluxe Onward feels way different from Return to Dreamland, but Triple Deluxe Onward, those I can see. Not so much to the extent where they're called the new Super Mario Brothers of Kirby. How you could look at the creativity in TDX and Robobot and unironically think that is beyond me, but I can at least see where people are coming from. It still doesn't quite bother me because, I don't know, all games are kind of like this. You get a style of gameplay, you build on it, and then as games progress, you innovate. At least regarding 2D platformers, Mario does the same thing, Sonic does the same thing, Mega Man's still doing that, Klonoa did that, and again, I love Klonoa, so why is Kirby any different? Robobot and Star Allies are really the main offenders here, but the ire is mostly directed at Star Allies. Robobot kind of gets the pass because it's really good, which is honestly really hypocritical, but to avoid making anyone too mad, I'll also bring up that Robobot is kinda sorta literally Triple Deluxe 2, or at least it was at one point, so it's easier to give it a bit of a pass. That said, while I am a fan of Star Allies and even prefer it over Triple Deluxe, I can't say I don't disagree with the criticism it's received, especially at launch. Not to the extent that it got, especially from a very small but very large and loud batch of content creators. I'm not going to say any names, but they were awful about that. But still, I don't know, there isn't really an endpoint with this video because the arguments, and really, that's all they are. There's no discussion about this era being good or bad. You just like it or you don't and get into petty squabbles until you annoy the person you disagree with enough. And this does go for both sides. For this era's quality boiled down to the same tired points. I defend most of these games and still consider this my favorite era of the series. And looking back at it, now that it's finished, it's definitely interesting. Looking back at all of these games and picking them apart to see what makes them good and not so good has been super interesting. It's been a fun series to do, and I'm glad that, if nothing else, this has really confirmed to me that Superstar Ultra is still a game that's on people's minds. I can never ever let that game leave. If I had to rank the eras of Kirby, which is totally meaningless because frankly they're all so close, I'd have to go with the Return era at number 1, or the Cool Kid era, as I've probably made the title of the video, as my favorite, then the Classic era, then the Midlife Crisis. Well, thank you all for joining me for this year's Kirby month. It's been super fun. Oh, you know what? I feel like I've forgotten something, but I can't quite land on what that is. Oh, shoot, that's right. With the month being so close to being over, I totally forgot. I promised a copy ability spotlight for August. Whoops. Well, we've still got a couple days left. Look forward to that. Until then, I've been Claire, Kirby fan. Thanks you so much for watching, and I will see you around. Bye!